At 68 years old, Eleanor Ellie Hart still believed that love and loyalty were currencies that never lost their value. A conviction forged through 4 decades of rising at dawn to care for a man, a house, and a family that had never truly been hers. So when her husband, Theodore Theo Blackwood, died peacefully in his sleep 3 months shy of his 85th birthday, Ona read, expecting the reading of the will to be nothing more than a gentle, formal goodbye. Yet the silence that followed Reed's first words was deafening. The $8.7 million estate, the Brookline mansion, the investment portfolios, the retirement accounts, was left in its entirety to Theo's 3 grown children from his first marriage, Marcus, Vivian, and Lucas, while Ellie, the woman who had managed every meal, every holiday, every silent crisis for 40 years, was given what the will coldly described as adequate compensation for her companionship and domestic services. A single rusty iron key, a handwritten address in a town no one had heard of, and exactly 30 days to vacate the only home she had known since 1984. The humiliation so complete that she sat in her 10-year-old car in the parking garage and sobbed until she had nothing left. But what the arrogant heirs could not see, what their greed blinded them to, was that Theo had spent 40 years building a secret sanctuary designed precisely for this moment, a fortress of love disguised as abandonment, and Ellie was about to discover that having absolutely nothing left to lose is its own kind of freedom, a freedom that would rewrite her ending entirely. Ellie had met Theo in 1984, a 28-year-old secretary whose quiet efficiency kept his chaotic legal life running smoothly. And when the 45-year-old widower with 3 resentful children asked her to dinner, then proposed just 6 months later, she said yes, believing she had found both security and love in one package. Yet from the wedding day forward, Marcus, Vivian, and Lucas made it clear she would never belong, telling her at the reception with ice in their eyes that she would never be their mother. And for 40 years Ellie tried, remembering every birthday, hosting every holiday, nurturing a marriage that always felt distant. Theo kind in his way, but remote, keeping a home office strictly off limits, maintaining separate bank accounts he patted her hand about, telling her not to worry her pretty head about money, assuring her his job was to provide, while hers was to make the house a home. And she obeyed, trusting completely, even when he took monthly work trips or weekend getaways to decompress, never questioning, never imagining he was vanishing to a life he never mentioned, a life built entirely around her. The 30 days after the will reading were a masterclass in calculated cruelty, Marcus, Vivian, and Lucas invading the Brookline house daily with contractors, designers, and realtors who measured walls covered with Ellie's 40-year photo history while speaking about her as if she were furniture, discussing knocking down walls to create open concept spaces and calling her hand-tended gardens overgrown weeds, reducing her existence to an obstacle between them and a profitable sale, nights leaving Ellie terrified and then furious, but mostly numb, packing 3 suitcases and 2 boxes of personal items, the wedding photo she stole from the mantel, And on day 28, after overhearing Vivian laugh that Ellie should be grateful she wasn't homeless, Ellie drove away from the mansion without looking back. The brown envelope with the rusty key on the passenger seat, her GPS pointing to 47 Oakwood Lane, Willow Creek, Massachusetts. 2 hours and 14 minutes to an unknown future, and a promise she made to herself that whatever she found, she would survive it with her dignity intact. Willow Creek was tiny, timeless, its main street lined with a general store, a diner, a library, and a white church. And as Ellie drove through, people paused to watch her pass, not with suspicion, but with quiet recognition, as if they had been expecting her. An elderly woman named Maggie, stepping into the road with a basket of fresh bread, eggs, and milk, saying, "You're Ellie. We've been waiting," explaining that Theo had been coming to this town for 40 years, every month, maintaining a stone house hidden by ancient oak trees, a sanctuary he called Ellie's Place, inherited from his bachelor uncle, Uncle Silas, who left one instruction: protect this home for someone you love more than life itself, and that Theo had stocked it, paid its taxes, and prepared it for the day his wife would inherit it, the only way to keep it safe from the stepchildren who would have seized it through lawyers and claims of marital property. The house was not the crumbling dump the heirs had mocked. It was a breathtaking stone cottage, wild yet intentional, with leaded glass windows, a steep slate roof, and gardens that had been lovingly maintained. And when Maggie used the rusty key, the oak door swung open to reveal a living room where every available surface, every wall, was covered with photographs of Ellie. Young Ellie laughing, Ellie in the garden, Ellie sleeping, Ellie living, captured in unguarded moments Theo had taken without her knowing, a private museum dedicated entirely to her. And in a hidden study under the stairs sat a thick cream envelope addressed in Theo's precise hand to "My beloved Ellie," a letter that explained everything: that he had hidden the property to protect it, that the Brookline mansion was mortgaged to the hilt and choked with historic preservation rules that made selling it nearly impossible, that the investment accounts left to his children were locked in trusts requiring annual employment verification, ethics evaluations, and active management they could not meet, that he had given them the visible wealth they craved, but wrapped it in traps that would make their lives miserable, while to Ellie he had given true freedom: 247 protected acres worth millions, a deed in her name alone since 1984, a 50-year trust that paid all taxes, utilities, and maintenance forever, and filing cabinets filled with decades of documents about his children's financial missteps, business irregularities, and personal secrets, information he never used but left her so she would never be powerless again, ending with the words that he had failed her in life by being too weak to stand up to them, but hoped he had succeeded in death by being clever, that this sanctuary was hers to live in, sell, or transform, built from love, protected by love, and given with more love than he had ever managed to show while breathing. Ellie read the letter 3 times, tears streaming, then laughed, a deep, liberating laugh, because the cruelest will had actually been the most brilliant act of love and perfectly legal revenge. And when Marcus, Vivian, and Lucas arrived a few days later in a Mercedes expecting a broken woman, Ellie met them on her porch, calm, centered, and radiating quiet power, serving them tea in beautiful china while placing a folder on the table between them containing documentation of their trust's impossible conditions and their own carefully hidden secrets, telling them to walk away accept the will, and leave her alone, or she would release every scrap of information and destroy their reputations and comfortable lives they had built on Theo's money. And for the first time in 40 years, they truly saw her, not the secretary, not the domestic help, but a woman with real leverage, unshakable resolve, and the will to use it. And they left, their legal challenge dropped within a week, never to return. 6 months later, Ellie sat on her restored stone porch beneath blazing autumn oaks, the sanctuary now fully hers, the gardens blooming in organized beauty, the fountain running, the house filled not with ghosts, but with possibility. The stepchildren discovering their millions were trapped, expensive, and frustrating, their greed handing them stress instead of freedom, while Ellie had found home in a way she never had in Boston, volunteering at the library, helping at the community center, attending church, and making real friends who knew her name. And in a final envelope Theo had hidden, she found a deed to 20 acres on the edge of town and a $500,000 trust for your future. Build something that helps others the way this place helped you. And she knew instantly what to create. Hart Haven, a retreat center for women who, like her, had given everything to others and ended up lost. Widows, women leaving difficult situations, anyone needing shelter to rediscover themselves. A place where loyalty is honored, love is real, and no one is ever erased. Because at 68 years old, Eleanor Hart had spent 40 decades being exactly who everyone else needed her to be. But here, in this sanctuary, surrounded by ancient forest, genuine community, and infinite possibility, she was finally free to become who she had always been meant to be, proving that dreams don't age, strength doesn't expire, justice always finds the right address, and it is never, ever too late to start living the life that is truly yours.